Many of the follow channel know I'm in the weed control and fertilization business. Today I'm going to go over the equipment I use to run my business. Let's get started checking out my lawn care equipment for weed control and fertilization. So some of you know I'm in my third lawn care business, and the first two I primarily focus on mowing, and now I'm doing mostly weed control and fertilization. And the equipment I use, I want to just go over it real quick and talk to you about the equipment and why I chose what I did in a lot of situations. So one thing you're going to notice, I've got these two Rhino spreader sprayers. So this one is what is now branded as a Ferris Pathfinder. You can see mine still says Ground Logic. I got it last year, and it was a deal where some dealer had bought some that were several years old, but they still had 0 hours on it. So even though it's a few years old model, I've still got less than 100 hours on it. This is the Z-Spray LTS. Some of you might have been familiar with what was the X-Mark LTS. It has a similar design, but also some of the features that Z-Spray brought over. So you had Z-Turf equipment. One thing I want to mention about the Rhino spreader sprayers, both of these will fit through a 36-inch gate. And you may say, Jason, why don't you have a bigger machine? Well, a lot of it has to do with the type of properties I'm dealing with. So one advantage of both of these is I can fit it on the rack that's on the back of my truck. So I've got this rack. These are made by a company called B&B Technologies there. And these machines will fit on there. So these foot stops up here, they can be adjusted to lengthen out for one machine versus the other, and also have a different set of these tire stops depending on which machine I'm carrying on the rack. So that's nice. I like being able to carry those on a rack, not having to pull a trailer. Also, the smaller machines, I do a lot of small properties, so that's an advantage. Also, both of these perform pretty well on hills. So with me having small properties and some hills to deal with and not wanting to pull a trailer, these become good options for me in my business. Now my truck, this is a F350 with a flatbed on it. I personally like the flatbed because it gives me a lot of room to put fertilizer and things in the back. You can see I built some wood rails to go around the perimeter of the truck. It had some metal ones when I bought it, but I took those out, and I've got little storage racks over here for these handheld sprayers. So I may carry 3 or 4 or 5 of these at any given time. These are a 2-gallon sprayer, and I'll put a link to some of these stuff in the description. You can see it's made by Smith Contractor sprayer. I just buy these off Amazon. I would not describe them as excellent. I would say they are a good value sprayer. So probably run you $40-something for this. And I use a bunch of them and may carry several different products on my truck at any one time. So I've got Blindside in this one, Tribute Total in this one. It's different products for different purposes. My tank is kind of the workhorse of my business in a lot of ways, especially when I'm spraying. I still do most of my spraying with this tank. This is built by Graham Spray Equipment, and this is a 400-gallon split tank. So on this side over here is a 100-gallon side, over here is a 300-gallon side. So where that comes in handy is if I've got Bermuda, Zoysia, Centipede, St. Augustine lawns. So oftentimes early in the year when I'm spraying pre-emergent, I may put my Bermuda Zoysia mix on the large side and my Centipede St. Augustine mix on the small side. The reason I do that is because I've got more Bermuda Zoysia lawns than I do Centipede St. Augustine yards. But a lot of the products you can use on Bermuda Zoysia you can't use on Centipede and St. Augustine, so I need to keep them separate. How I switch from one side to the other, you'll see these 3 yellow valves right here that I'm pointing at. If I flip that one and that one up in the up position, it'll start pulling from the small side of the tank. With them all down like they are now, it's pulling from the large side of the tank. So what I'll often do is put just a little bit of dye in the small side of the tank if I'm using the same color. Let's say I'm spraying prodiamine on both sides, but I've got a little bit different post-emergence in there. Well, they both look yellow, so I'll put a little bit of blue dye on this side, which actually turns the mixture green mixed with the yellow, just enough to tint it. So when I flip those valves up to start spraying from this side, I'll spray it back into the large side of the tank until it turns green. Once it turns green, I know that I'm now cleared the hose and I'm spraying from the small side of the tank, and I'm safe to spray my Centipede and St. Augustine lines. If I want to switch it back to the other side, I do the the opposite. I flip the valves back down, spray it back into this tank while it's green. When it turns yellow, I know I'm back over here. I'm just using green and yellow for those particular situations. You see my reel here, I believe this is a 300-foot hose. It may be 400, but I think it's 300 foot. And I get confused how to pronounce this. I don't know if it's Haney or Haney or whatever, but you see how it's spelled. They make fantastic reels. You can see the swivel parts here, so it makes it where you can pull it sideways, and it actually works great. So I've got push button. You see how I can wind it up with the push button here. Keep a spare button on my truck usually, because this button will go out sometimes, so it's a very cheap part, very easily replaced. And if it goes out on you, you want to be able to replace it so I can wind in 300 foot of hose easily. My tank has a bean piston pump on it, and on the large side I've got a mechanical agitation. So what that means is there is a big paddle, and when these pulleys are turning, and it's got a belt, it's all hooked in there to the big metal paddle that is churning and keeping this highly agitated. On the other side, it's jet agitation, so I just have the mechanical agitation on the large side. Backpack sprayers, you can see these racks come from, these are the Green Touch racks at trailerracks.com. I've got these. One of the things that they have definitely upgraded their clips. So I ordered some replacement straps last year because mine was coming loose, and they sent me better quality straps. So I'm really excited about that, because like I said, the previous ones were not as good. So these seem to lock in very well. Very simple design. I like a flatbed because I can also bolt these to the side of my truck and put my backpack sprayer on. All I gotta do is turn my back and slip the straps on, and it's very easy. So these are both jack toe sprayers. This is a 4-gallon, this is a 3-gallon. They're, as far as I would say value for a backpack sprayer, those are both good. They're reasonably priced. Used to be less than $100, around $100. They may be a little more. I hadn't priced them lately, but definitely a good price on these backpack sprayers, and they function well, hold good pressure, don't leak. As far as I know, if they're functioning correctly, so I'm very satisfied with these sprayers. I also have a couple of battery-powered sprayers. This is the Milwaukee battery-powered sprayer. There's some things I like about it. It has a switch tank, so you can actually take that tank off, put another tank on, keep separate herbicides in there. I used to do that a lot. It is a little on the heavy side. I would say that's the downside to it. Battery lasts a really long time. I've heard some people that have claimed to have some issues with their Milwaukee sprayer. Mine has been performed very well. I've had it for several years. This one, okay, I got this at Walmart this year, and it was on clearance. Haven't actually used it yet. I'll put some water in it just to make sure it's sprayed, and it does. But I haven't used it yet. But I just thought it was less than $100 on clearance. I thought I'm gonna get it just to try it. So I'm gonna try this sprayer and see how I like it. But for the value, it was, I don't know if I'd pay full price for it, but maybe, who knows? Maybe I'll love it. But I checked the clearance rack at Walmart. That's where I got this thing. A handheld blower with me. So doing fertilization and weed control, sometimes you try to keep the fertilizer off the sidewalk and stuff, but sometimes you need to blow it off. And so I keep this little Milwaukee handheld blower on my truck. I've had probably 4 different brands of handheld blowers. This has been my favorite as far as the power goes and just reliability. And something I use a whole lot, and I'm not really embarrassed by it, is this solo chest mounted spreader. So a lot of times I've got some yards that are actually too hilly to ride a machine on, and so I have to walk them with this thing. And then a lot of times on the small yards, I'll actually put this on and spread with this instead of getting the machine out, because I think by the time I get the machine off the rack, I could just about have the yard fertilizer faster with this than unloading the machine, fertilize the yard machine, put the machine back on the rack. Just put this around my neck and go. So I use this actually a lot, even on yards I could ride on. Now obviously if it's a yard with any size to it, I try to ride it whenever possible in some small yards. But the other good thing about this, like for instance, today I was out doing some stuff and it was wet. Some of the yard's been wet because we had a lot of rain, and so I may not want to ride my machine on a wet yard, but it might be okay to walk that yard with this. And it actually spreads really good. I use it for you know, fire ant bait, fertilizer, grub control. Pretty cool invention to have around. They are reasonably priced as well. I think I bought this one on Amazon. Like I said, I'll put links if you're looking for some of these products. It's good to have some lockable metal boxes with you. So you see I've got a pretty nice one under there that I can keep some stuff in, as well as one that mounts on the top. And one thing you want to consider if you're buying equipment for weed control and fertilization, make sure your truck is big enough to support your tank. So with a 400-gallon tank, you know, let's say water liquid weighs around 8 pounds per gallon, so you're looking at 3,200 pounds roughly of just the weight of the tank, of the water in the tank. Okay, so this being an F-350's got dual rear wheels, and the GVW on this particular vehicle is rated to hold the amount of weight. So don't buy an undersized truck, and make sure the tank you're wanting to get, that your truck is able to support that. Question I get a lot of times, people say, Jason, if I'm starting in weed control, should I get a ride-on spreader sprayer or a spray tank first? Well, I mean, really, it is a tough question. I think some of it's going to depend on the type properties you're at. If I lived, let's say, in the Midwest, and it was very flat and large properties, I would really want to use the ride-on spreader sprayer more, but I would still have a tank. So for me, I went and bought this tank, and then I got a ride-on spreader sprayer as quickly as possible. So for, you know, if I could only choose one, me personally, in my situation, I would get a spray rig on the back of my truck. And even if you have one of these, you need some kind of tank to be able to fill them up with. So I mean, really, I think the answer is both, but which one you're going to primarily use to spray, it just depends on the situation. So I'm almost doing all my pre and post submerge applications with my tank sprayer. Again, if I lived in wide open spaces, or if I do like a football field or something, I'm out there riding this. But with hills and odd shaped lawns, sometimes the tank is easier. But the ride-on spreader sprayers are awesome. What I use the ride-on spreader sprayer for, usually, I do some spraying out of it with like pre-emergent stuff, but typically I'm using it to spread granular fertilizer, and then I can spray any weeds I see while I'm spreading, kind of knock out two birds with one stone. There's lots of spreader sprayers out there. You kind of need to try some out and see which one you like the feel of. I like both of these. There's going to be some pros and cons to each one of these. Like the Ground Logic holds a little bit better on hills, in my opinion. The LTS here is superior, definitely, as far as the spraying capabilities, agitation in the tank, and things like that. So it just depends on your situation and what you're looking for. Appreciate you watching. If you want to get into weed control and fertilization, you know, one great thing you can do is find a local mentor if you can find that. If you live in the South doing warm season grasses, then I also have resources available for you at lawncarelife.com. There's a Weed Control and Fertilization Academy, which has been popular as documents, pricing charts, programs for what to spray on grasses. I've got the cheat sheet I came out with into last year, first year, this year, I can't really remember, but it shows a lot of commonly used herbicides and the weeds we use to control them with, the rates, links to the label, the SDS. It's very helpful, time-saving documents. Those things are available at lawncarelife.com. If you hadn't done so, I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. I'm getting close to 900 videos, I think. Been on YouTube for a long time. I do live streams trying to post videos 3 times a week, and then also doing some shorts and things like that. So a lot going on the Lawn Care Life YouTube channel. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you in the next video.